All right, y'all, let's jump off into it. Who's the criminal? We've talked about this before on a number of different occasions when we look at the state of Israel as it's most recently known. And then we look at the American government. And then we look at what they're doing within that region and also just throughout the world. And then we come to ask the question, for real, who is the criminal? Who is the criminal? Right? So globally, we have a lot that's going on. A lot that's transpiring. And it's under the guise or the appearance that it's for democracy. But yet, people are being oppressed in the name of somebody's democracy. And this is where you all have heard me talk about the pragmatism. And in America, they have the great pragmatics. But we really don't, consider these things from that standpoint. It's like, for whatever reason, those things kind of go over our head. But who is the criminal? Thank you all for coming, into the live, right? So I should take a moment and I guess I should, invite quite a few people, into the live as well. But I appreciate you all, for taking this time, and coming into the live. Thank you so very much. Right? But when we look at what's happening within that region, you have to consider this greater Israel project that they got going on. It's not only, the Palestinians, it's not only the Iranians, but, look at what's transpiring in that region. Even when you talk about Lebanon, I heard a report where they said nine different regions within Lebanon have been disrupted. For what? By what authority? Just because these criminals want the land. So they're displacing families that have been there. And they call this, they consider it to be legit. And the world is watching, and the majority of the world, and a number of you right here in America, you're quiet on this corruption. So I speak to the oppression that's happening globally, right? Like, I acknowledge the oppression that's happening to me and my people here in America. And then I can look out and I can see where that oppression is happening to other people. And the time has come for the oppression to end. But don't expect for Netanyahu or the state of Israel or, the administration within government or Donald Trump or the democracy in America to end oppression. These individuals are the culprits of the oppression. Thank you all for coming into the live. You tap the screen, that part doesn't cost anything. Share the live, you repost the live. Add it, share it to your stories. Right? So here someone says, Sargon, he says, no one cares. Sargon, take your ass someplace else. Why are you even here? You could have saved that comment. Go and deal within whatever corners and whatever bigots you talk to and deal with. Go there and deal with them. Take your ass someplace else. You're not wanted here. Because real families are being affected. And it's small-minded individuals such as yourself. Small-minded individuals such as yourself that have no understanding. And all you care about is your selfish self. But thankfully, that's coming to an end. And all the people that hold the mindset, such as yourself, then you'll receive the reward that's acceptable for you. Corruption can't continue. So for all the individuals and for all those that think they're winning in corruption, prepare yourself for the impact of the collapse. Look forward to your demise in corruption. So when we talk about who is the criminal, we can start to look at things that have happened historically that tells you nothing good will ever come from the leadership of these nations and these states or these heads of state. They're complicit in the corruption together. And unfortunately, the Arab world has signed on to the corruption. And as I said before, there are small pockets, of them that are fighting for, a sense of their freedom or to be liberated, not to be influenced by Western society and or the democracy that oppresses people. They're fighting for their autonomy. And these are the ones that are then turned around and quickly labeled to be terrorists. Even a domestic terrorist. Because you don't want to subject yourself to a corrupt rule and or an oppression of another people, then they label you. But the question stands, who is the criminal? Because they will use their media, mainstream media, and they'll put out their narrative. And they'll make everybody else be the bad guy except them. They claim to be the liberators. The liberators of the free world, democracy. And then go and invade another country. snatch up a head of state from another country. And they want you to think that's appropriate, that's proper, that's just. Hey, what we just did is legitimate. Who is the criminal? Thank you all for coming into the live. Tap the screen. That part don't cost nothing. That's how you show your support for the live. Share the live, repost the live. Add it to your stories. Who is the criminal? When you look at how the U.S. and how they created the state of Israel in that region and then renamed it the Middle East. The Middle East is a European term, a most modern term. But they did this to then get in that region, to have a stronghold in that region. And now you can see how they're destabilizing the region. And unfortunately, again, like with the Arab nations, they've aligned themselves with this corruption for the money. They sold out. They took the hand of a Judas and they sold out for the silver, for the paper with the pictures of the slave masters on it. They want the dollars. So you know what that means? Even the Arabs, they're just a different type of slave to the Europeans in the name of Islam. So it needs to be called out. And all those that are in bed with the criminals, that makes you a criminal because you're complicit with what's going on outside of resisting it. Right? You're not resisting it, you're accepting it. And then you do it in the name of Islam. And this just causes more contention. This just causes more contention as we move about and we look at what's happening worldwide. And the net of oppression continues to spread. So I fight to end, I speak to end that oppression globally as I see it happening, not only to my people right here in America, but as I see it happening in Lebanon, as I see it happening in Gaza, as I see it happening to the Iranians, as I see it happening in Cuba, Haiti, all throughout Africa. Yes, the Africans are fighting, but you better know these wars are being propped, fixed, and funded by the Europeans. They play both sides to the game. And in the end, it's so that they can get what they want. Who is the criminal? The world right now is in turmoil because of these heads of state. acting as if they're moving and or they're maneuvering for peace. Every time they say peace, somebody else lose their life. Somebody else lose property. Somebody else lose their resource in the name of peace. Thank you all for coming into the live. So I can sympathize. I can sympathize with the Palestinians. I can sympathize with the Iranians. I can sympathize with a people globally that's being oppressed. Because it's been happening to my people for over 4,000 years, but 250 years in America. So when the Palestinians here stand up and they cry out against the atrocities that's happening to them right now in this day and time, I understand. But I want them to know this has been happening to me and my people. And although we didn't receive any aid or any help, no one comes to our rescue, but we're here for you. We're here for you. No one's going to liberate the world from this oppression but us. Who else is going to do it? They fear what they misnomered as the NEGRO. That when these people come together, when my people come together, they understand that's the end of their rule. And this would be the end of oppression globally. So I'm here for you. So they've made us a threat to their national security. Why is that? Why have a worthless people no value? They've made us look like buffoons and idiots. If we are the buffoon, if we are the idiot, if we're nothing but gangsters and thugs and criminals, why on the record are we labeled a threat? Why on the record do they consider us to be the enemy? Abu, you can come up. I know it's morning where you are. I know it's morning where you are. But they labeled us the threat. And they say, don't let them people come together, because if we come together, it's to then end that reign of oppression, or to deal with the colonizers and to make them pay for what they've done. So we deal with eradicating oppression throughout the world. These people are responsible for oppression throughout the world, single-handedly. So there's nothing good that can come from these individuals. They promise peace, and like I said, people start losing their life, or you'll lose your property, or some other resource. They can't be. Thank you all for coming into the live. I have a guest on the stage, Abu Sajir. Abu is in Gaza, boots on the ground. I normally go to his page when I want to hear news different than the mainstream media that is out there, to get a handle on, what's happening in real time. So while he's on the stage, I'm going to ask you all that you divert your gifts to Abu. I appreciate the fact that you want to give to me, but divert your gifts to my guest that's on the stage. I would appreciate you doing that. Don't give me anything at this point in time. Support my guest that's on the stage. And I'm going to bring him up and I'm going to let him share some things, with you as it pertains to how they've been dealing with things in Gaza. Right? And we're still asking that question. Have you identified yet who is the criminal? Because they've positioned themselves to have these policies, these procedures, and it applies to everybody else but them. There's no accountability, for them. They must be stopped. Somebody asked, what does that look like? That means they can have no authority, they can have no power. Then we can truly have peace in the world. This is when we get peace in the world, when we remove the evil, we remove the corruption. Then we can deal justly with each other. But as long as these two, and I know that's a Netanyahu and that's a Trump, but they're a part of a broader problem within a state of Israel, within the concept of an America. It can't continue. If it continues, then the suffering continues, because their whole aim or mission is to conquer the world, conquer the world, and make everyone bend to their authority. And it's unfortunate the Arab nations have sold out. But yes, you do have small pockets of individuals that are still fighting for their liberation against it. But the majority of them, they've sold out, even in the name of Islam. They've sold out. So you can't listen to them. You can't trust them. Anybody that's in bed with the Americas or with the state of Israel, you can't trust them. Don't matter if they come in the name of Judaism, Christianity, Islam, you can't trust them. They're liars. They're thieves. Abu, welcome.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you, brother? I hope you're doing well. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you for allowing me the chance to come up. It's been a while since I joined your panel. I really hope that your viewers appreciate what you are doing here. Yani, the way you educate people, the way you share information, the way you are trying to wake everyone up is definitely highly appreciated. And I think that everyone should be... Why are you laughing, Notka? What's up? Notka is my friend, sorry. Uh, the thing is, I know that there is so much oppression happening around the globe, and I think the only way out of it is if human beings from different backgrounds unite and stick together. They have been trying to keep us divided. They have been trying to spread selfishness, in which nowadays you can see that the majority of the people only care about themselves. But we need to remember that everything connected, and we need to remember that allowing oppression in one place can lead to oppression in a different place. Tomorrow it's happening for the people of Africa, for the people of Palestine, for the people of Lebanon. It might happen to you, to your family, to your kids tomorrow. And I have been thinking deeply about this matter, and I want to share something with you. The other day, I went to a panel for an African. There was an African woman on the panel, and she was talking about her experience of how she was kidnapped and how she was enslaved. She was sold in exchange for money, and she got enslaved. And when I think about this, me listening to her story was truly traumatizing. And I realized that the fact that the world was watching this kind of things happening to our brothers and sisters, and they didn't do something about it, is actually what encouraged Israel to do horrible things to the people of Palestine, knowing that they can get away with it. Because this has been happening in Libya, in Chad, Eritrea, Ethiopia for a very long time, and the international community and the people in general failed to make it stop because they refused to take action. So, of course, a state like Israel is going to do horrible things because they know that this system that we are dealing with is useless. It was created in a way to allow the strong ones do whatever the fuck they want, and it was only created in a way to be used against the weak ones. This is why it's important. Uh, by the way, no, what's happening in Libya is not just happening is not about just carried out by Muslims, by the way. And I asked her that a question, and half of it is happening because of some Christian gangs who work in this field. But this has nothing to do with religion. I'm not here to speak about religion. I'm not saying that, oh my God, only there are no bad Muslims or there are no bad Christians. Of course there are. Everywhere there are. But again, at least what they are doing, they are not doing it in the name of the religion, just like the Jewish people or the Zionists are doing. Because when you talk to a Zionist, they justify the killing of children and women and innocent people by using their religion. So with all due respect, any Israelis in the chat, you are the last ones to speak about religion because you are so fucked up, and you are the people who use religion in the most horrible way. Anyways, regarding the current situation here in Palestine and in Gaza, unfortunately, brother, things are not changing positively on the ground. Actually, here it's getting even worse. Here, every day, they carry out airstrikes and they unalive people. Like 2 days ago, they carried out 4 airstrikes targeting 4 apartments, which led to the unalivement of 10 Palestinians and the injury of 15. Unfortunately, in these airstrikes, I lost one of my good friends, Muhammad Abu Maraq. He was assassinated by the Israeli occupation forces along with his wife, and the rest of the family members were injured. What's happening here in Palestine is definitely heartbreaking, because at some point I thought that this will come to an end soon. But unfortunately, it is not over yet, and they are still killing the innocent people of Palestine with no justification, for no reason but that they are Palestinians who dream about liberation and the freedom. A lot of people don't really understand that since the beginning of the so-called ceasefire that Trump implemented, the Israel has been violating the ceasefire on daily basis. That's why it is no longer a ceasefire. It is a policy of you seize and we fire. That's exactly what Israel is doing. But worth mentioning, brother, and this is something I want everyone to understand. For decades, we thought that the Zionist entity is controlling U.S. administration. But what happened a couple of days ago has proven otherwise. Let me explain. Benjamin Netanyahu was about to launch a large-scale attack targeting Lebanon, especially Beirut or the southern suburbs of Beirut. He gave the orders for the army, and the IDF, was preparing itself to be engaged largely attacking Lebanon. What happened is that Trump had a phone call with Benjamin Netanyahu, and according to sources, that during this phone call, he was screaming at Benjamin Netanyahu, calling him crazy, and saying things like, everyone hates you, everyone hates Israel, and things like that. And if it wasn't for me, Benjamin Netanyahu, you would have ended up in jail. And he asked him to stop his plan to attack Beirut. And since then, the Israeli opposition and the Israeli radical leaders have been really mad at Benjamin Netanyahu because Benjamin Netanyahu succumbed to the American pressure and stopped the expected attack on Beirut or in Lebanon. What does that mean? It means that if the American administration truly wanted to stop what has been happening in Palestine for almost 8 decades, they would have stopped it, but they didn't want to. When Trump wanted Israel to stop doing something, he forced them to do it, which means that Israel is acting on behalf of the USA in this region. They are doing exactly what the USA wants. So for me, the US administration is the greater evil. They are the head of the snake. And even the German chancellor once said that Israel is doing the dirty work on behalf of America and the Europeans. And that is the fact that those Western colonial governments never wished anything good for our region. They planted Israel in our region in order to keep attacking us, to divide us, to take this region into chaos so it becomes easier for them to take control over everything and to occupy this region. So I wanted just to share this idea with you, and I'm willing to answer any questions if you have.
Okay. Um, I don't really have questions because I'm understanding what you're speaking to, and I'm asking you all in the audience to if you have gifts or if you want to give. I have a guest on the stage, Abu Siraj. He's in Gaza. You guys show your love and provide your gifts, to Abu. I would appreciate that. Okay. Let me say this as well. Share the live, repost the live. You can also put it in your stories. Tap the screen. That part doesn't cost anything. That's how you show your support, for the live. Appreciate you all for coming out, to the live. And for those of you that are not here, to support the conversation within ending this oppression that's happening globally, you all can leave. There's no debate. There's really nothing we need to have a conversation with you if you're trying to support the pragmatism within America, if you're looking to, support what the state of Israel is doing, this is just not the place for you. We're not here to talk about, the thievery, or we're not here to continue the support within the things that they're doing. We're here to talk about the necessity and or the need for it to stop, for it to end. So if you're not here to uphold that and to speak to the remedy for that, find someplace else to go. It's early in the morning, wherever you are. It's late in the evening, wherever you are. You can do something else with your time. But, we're here to speak about the oppression that's happening across the planet. Here in America, there in Gaza, in Cuba, in Haiti, in Iran, based on the sanctions and the embargoes. And we're talking about how a European nation, a NATO, a United Nations centered and or functioning around this American government, this state of Israel, how they're using it to oppress the planet. If you disagree with this, then you really have to bring, a fact, but there is no fact that you can bring just to show otherwise that these things are not happening. And if you attempted to do it, then automatically we understand and or know you're part of that problem. And you too will receive the reward, for the wicked. So again, I have a guest on the stage, Abu Siraj. Did I say that? Yes. Did I say your last name right? Siraj. Abu Siraj, right? And I'm asking you all that for whatever gifts that you have, that you send your gifts to, Abu. I appreciate, those of you that, prefer or like to give, your gifts at this time. There are a lot of people in the room, right now. So we should see those numbers starting to run up with you all showing your love, to my guest, that is in the room. So again, if you have something to give, you all don't give it to me. Please don't give it to me. Show your love to my guest. Okay? I would appreciate that. He's there, in Gaza, and there are different things that, he can provide for himself and his family and others, that are in Gaza that, have a difficult time, at this point in time. So I'd appreciate it if you show love, to my guest, while he's here. So we're focused on that point of who's the criminal. And you all know I've spoke lately here pointing out how Netanyahu and the state of Israel, they're not even who they say, they are, who they claim to be. They're over in that region to destabilize or disrupt the region. The United States need a stronghold, and they use this claim of being Jew or Jewish or the state of Israel so that they can have a foot in that region. And look at what's happening. Look at the corruption. Look at the disruption. Look at the dysfunction that's happening while they launch a full-scale attack against Muslim families. And then try to tell you they're the terrorists. Only because they don't want to accept the Western democracy that enslaves and or oppress a people because they want to maintain their heritage, their autonomy, their self-determination, and for that reason, they've been demonized. It's the same thing they do right here in America against my own people. And this is why we stand up to speak out against the corruption, against the oppression, wherever it is worldwide. And for all the people that are being oppressed in this world, I'm here to say for me and for my people, we've been dealing with it for over 4,000 years, but 250 years in America. So I know firsthand what you're going through, what you're dealing with. And I make this statement, just as the Palestinians within Gaza, they have no love for the state of Israel. There's nothing good that a government and or the state of Israel can bring about. I have the same sentiment when it comes to an American government. There's nothing good about it. So when those of you that come from the region and come here, and because they give you gifts and they make your life appear to be that much better, don't insult. Don't insult us and try to make us think there's something good in it because they give you a gift. You have to remember, the gift destroys the heart. That comes from Ecclesiastes 7:7. It says the oppression should make you mad, but then they come with the gift and that destroys your heart, your mind. You start to say, oh, it's not that bad. But the same way you feel about Israel is the same way we feel about this administration, that administration, the American politics, the pragmatism. And I'm going to read a definition centered around pragmatism so that you all can understand the psychological games that are being played. And we can eliminate and or remove, let me say it that way, we can remove ourselves from the mindset and or from the institutions that are supporting this corruption. But again, for a number of you, you're living the life of a Judas because they give you money, because you have a good job, because you have a house. Then you turn on your people. You turn on the people in or throughout the world. You act as if it's not happening. Your selfishness will destroy you. Because it's just the day before it lands on your doorstep, and then you'll be crying for someone to help you. But let me read this definition for pragmatism, and then we'll go back to my guest, Abu Siraj, who has boots on the ground in Gaza. And he brings firsthand news that supersedes mainstream media news that is a part of that narrative trap and that political theater. Okay? But let's talk about pragmatism, because I'm pointing out that that's a part of the psychology globally that's being played on people in the name of policy and or procedure, and you all mistakenly think it's some kind of law. But they make this stuff up only to where it benefits them. But let's go. Pragmatism, it says, pragmatism is a straightforward problem-solving approach. Sounds good. Sounds harmless, right? That judges the value of truth, that judges the value or truth of an idea based on its real world practical results. So, sounds harmless at this point, right? He says, rather than sticking to rigid theories or abstract ideals, being pragmatic means adapting to current circumstances and focusing on what actually works. Now, if you're going to eliminate everything and you're just going to look at circumstances and you're going to focus on what actually works, it's like, to whose benefit? And this is how they've taken the concept of pragmatics or of being pragmatic, and they've used it to create their world. And they're saying, this is what we see as proper, appropriate, and just. And that's how they've created their policies and their procedures to things that seem to work for them. To hell with everybody else. Everybody else is going to bend the knee. So here's some key examples and concepts. So everyday meaning, it says, making practical decisions that promote the best possible outcome. But for who? Example, a pragmatic approach to a crowded, expensive restaurant might be ordering, okay, forget that one. Let's go to the means to the end. Right? The means to the end. It operates on the principle that the ideal is often the enemy of progress. Pragmatism is about finding the fastest, most effective way to reach a goal at an acceptable cost. But again, these are all things that they figured and they'll say, hey, this is what gives us the advantage. So now we can create circumstances and those situations that benefit our theory. Right now in the world, this is what it is right now. This is the truth right now. So here it says real world focus, and then we'll get into the last part about the philosophy, and then we'll come back to my guest. Real world focus. Instead of debating whether a particular management method is perfect, a pragmatic team simply implements the parts of the method they yield the best results. And this is what we're saying. They're finding things that give them the advantage, and they're positioning them in the world as if it's the best result and a way to live life. But these are things that give them the advantage. So in philosophy, talking about the pragmatic, originating in the United States in the 1870s via thinkers. So these are all European men. In 1870, you can best believe they were just as racist and or as bigot as they could be. So they figured out how to use pragmatism to elevate them throughout the world. So thinkers like Charles Sanders Peirce, William James, John Dewey. Philosophical pragmatism evaluates concepts based on their practical utility. For pragmatists, truth is not absolute. You get that? Did you hear that? They don't give a damn about the truth. The truth is not absolute. It changes whenever they want it to change, and whatever they say then becomes the truth. This is where they alter facts. Truth is not absolute, but constantly evolving. Y'all know that shit don't make no sense. Truth doesn't evolve. The truth is the truth. It doesn't change. The truth is the truth. But we're dealing with liars. We're dealing with thieves. They twist these things, so now they want you to believe the truth is, it evolves. It wouldn't be the truth if it's evolving. lies evolve and they change and you lose track of it and then it becomes something else. They're good at mixing truth with falsehood and then want to make it seem as if it's fair seeming. But truth is not absolute, constantly evolving, tested by what works in real life. So they test these things to see what gives them the advantage, and then they say, oh, this is the truth. Oh, this is the standard that we're going to go by. Oh, this is what works, but these are the things that provide them, for the that gives them the advantage. So when you hear people say I'm a realist and realism, they don't understand they're focused in pragmatism. Logically, we love that word. All of this is associated with degrees of pragmatism. All right. So I'm going to stop right there and open the floor back up to Abu and let him communicate with you, some more as we continue to ask, who is the criminal?
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. I would like to speak a little bit about the current humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip. For those who don't know, the Gaza Strip is part of Palestine, and since after the full occupation of Palestine and after the Oslo Accords, and when the Palestinian Authority took control in Gaza and the West Bank, the Palestinian control over the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem has always been violated by the Israeli occupation forces. I would like to concentrate on the Gaza Strip just to explain to everyone what's really happening here and why it is happening. First of all, back in 2005, before 2005, we used to have Israeli settlements inside the Gaza Strip. The Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon back then decided to dismantle the settlements inside Gaza and force the Jewish settlers out of Gaza. Yes, they dismantled and they left Gaza, but they maintained control over the Gaza Strip. They had control over our crossing points. They had control over how much food gets into the Gaza Strip, how much water we get, how much medication, and nothing gets in or gets out without the Israeli approval. In 2006, we had elections in Palestine, and the Achi group or Hamas won the election. In 2007, the Israelis decided to impose a siege on Gaza, in which the people of Gaza haven't been able to get out of Gaza since 2007. For example, someone like me living in Gaza isn't able to go and visit his family members in the West Bank or in Jerusalem or any elsewhere in the land of Palestine. After years and years of this siege, the Palestinian resistance decided to break the siege by attacking the occupiers, by attacking the Israeli military posts at the border. And this was the beginning of... and after that, the Israelis started a large-scale attack targeting the Gaza Strip. And after now 2 years and a half, the casualty number has risen to more than 100,000 Palestinians unalived, 180,000 Palestinians injured, and this is continues till this day by unaliving more Palestinians and by destroying our homes, in which they have destroyed 80% of the buildings in the Gaza Strip. And since then, they have been engineering a difficult humanitarian situation for the people in Gaza, in which they are not allowing enough food water and medication into the Gaza Strip. Most of the people here survive on only one meal a day. Most of the people, when they get sick, they don't have access to proper medical care. They cannot find the medications they need. And all of this happening because of the Israeli authorities who are engineering this situation. This is why I like to call what is happening in Gaza as an Israeli-made famine, in which they are doing this on purpose to collectively punish the people of Palestine and to ethnically cleanse the people of Palestine by pushing us out of the country. So this is still happening, unfortunately, and the things are getting even worse and worse day by day because they keep limiting or reducing the amount of aid coming into the Gaza Strip. The majority of the people here have no jobs. They have lost everything. They have no source of income. So they depend mainly on international aid. And if Israel is not allowing enough aid into the Gaza Strip, you can imagine what's going to happen to these people. We have organizations that try to help on the ground, like the World Central Kitchen, WCK, but they announced a couple of days ago that they are reducing the amount of meals that they can distribute because Israel is not allowing them to bring in the things that they need to cook food for the displaced people. So instead of distributing 1 million meal a day, they are reducing it to 500,000 meal a day, which is definitely not enough to cover the needs of 2.2 million people starving in the Gaza Strip.
I think we may have a temporary disruption with your connection, Abu. Sometimes, this happens within that region to where the internet connection is not strong. But if you understand the gravity to what he's saying, is the people there are intentionally being like starved out. And I'm gonna say again, I see you all are, still giving me gifts and hearts and all that stuff. I'd rather you provide that to my guest that is, on the stage. I'd appreciate that. And he's explaining to you that the people there in Gaza, have been strategically restricted as far as the aid or just being able to get basic necessities. And this is where we ask again, like, who is the criminal? Because I have to go back, and I know for a number of you, you feel as if that date, October the 7th, and there's another name that they call that. They don't really focus on it as October the 7th. They call it something else. But forgive my ignorance as I say October the 7th. That day was not a day where some folks woke up and said, hey, let's just go at the state of Israel. It was retaliation, you all. Looking at all the years and things that they keep doing to the people, and the people then make a move to defend themselves, and then they say, they attacked us. They're attacking us. When all the while, they've been the aggressor against that people, doing little stuff. But you didn't see that. You didn't hear about that. All you saw was when a people retaliated. And you think that gives justification for them to then do what they're doing. No, they helped to stage all of that so that they could escalate this to that point, because they want that territory. So for whatever it takes, they're going to create whatever lies, whatever scheme that they need to then take that territory. That's what colonizers do. That's what liars do. Thank you all for coming into the live. You share that live, you repost the live. Abu, are you back?
Yes, brother, I'm here.
Go ahead.
And thank you for mentioning this point, because definitely October 7th, or Al-Aqsa flood as we call it, was a normal reaction to long decades of oppression and injustice imposed against the people of Palestine. It was a cry out. It was the only option available for us, especially for the people of Gaza, who have been besieged for almost 19 years now. Um, the thing is, brother, like what are people expecting the people of Palestine to do? I really don't get it. Do they expect us to sit aside and watch our land being stolen almost every day, in which they expand the building of illegal settlements? What are we supposed to do when there are criminals unaliving your people almost every day? What are we supposed to do? Of course we're gonna fight back. The people of Palestine are not going down without a fight, and I need everyone to understand that. Despite their brutal force, despite their tanks and their warplanes and their jets, you still find Palestinians fighting and resisting, because that is the only option available. When you think about it, what made a group of young men to wake up one day and to decide to do something like this, even though they know that most of them will not come back alive? But they did it because they know that in order to make a change, you need to take a risk and you need to sacrifice, so that their kids, their siblings, their families might have a chance of having a better life and a better future. We live in a mad world, and unfortunately there are so many evil people out there, and if you don't fight them back, they're gonna take everything, because they don't care about you. They only care about themselves, and the only way to stop them is by resisting. Resisting their measures is by saying no loudly in every way possible. So for me as a Palestinian, I believe in all kinds of resistance. And even what we are doing here, guys, is a kind of resistance, because we are exposing their crimes and we are fighting against their narrative, which is really important. Raising awareness among people is one of the most important things that we need to do nowadays, because I still know that there are people out there who don't have the full picture about what's going on around them. It's all connected, and we need to stick together. We need to be united in the face of oppression in order to make it a stop. That's all I have to say, brother.
Okay. Great points. And again, looking at what's happening in that region, how they're not allowing them to get aid. That's one of those military strategies where they starve the people out. And I don't understand how anyone can think, that represents democracy, that represents justice. I mean, what's happening is criminal. And the world, for the most part, is silent, or no one's like really moving to enforce different measures against a state of Israel and against the United States. This part is unfortunate because they then want to turn around and act as if the UN right, have some authority to speak. It's almost like it's pissing me off, in a sense, because they say one thing and then they turn around and they do another thing. And this is looking at the UN. Nobody's moving to force the hand of a state of Israel or the Americas. They're acting as if they're just powerless and, oh, there's nothing we can do. There is something you can do. Disassociate yourself, otherwise you're complicit. Otherwise you're a part of it. It's like they're talking out of different sides of their mouth, or they're double-minded. And they're playing on the intelligence, of the world with this double-mindedness. Please give your gifts to my guest Abu Siraj that's on the stage. I appreciate it. And through this double-mindedness, they're acting as if they disagree with it, but yet they ain't doing a damn thing about it. And we need to call them out and make them stand for what they say they stand for, or we identify them for who they are and being complicit with the criminals. A hard line has to be drawn. See, I can't sit back and just watch and say nothing and do nothing and act like it's okay for what's happening in Gaza, what's happening in Lebanon, and what's happening within different regions around the world. Can't sit back and not say anything and not do anything, because before you know it, it'll be at your doorstep and the next doorstep, and it will even intensify right here where I'm at. See, for where I am, folks think it's a little better because you can go to the grocery store, because you have a house and you can drive around. But let me tell you something. You can't equate freedom and the value, to what self-determination and liberation is, to the mere fact that because somebody lets you go to the store or they give you a house, that's just a different type of slave, you all. That's a different type of oppression. And for a number of you, you're dealing with a Stockholm syndrome. You're trying to empathize with the oppressors and trying to find some good in what they do. All of it needs to end. All of it needs to end. And you come to America, and again, you think because they give you a job, you think that's a benefit and you think that's better. Well, from that standpoint, guess what you're doing? You're siding with the enemy. Because that job then prevents you from really being able to step out and stand on what's truth. That guise of freedom that they give you, it's being used against you to where you want to say, oh, it ain't that bad. And what's happening over there? Oh, well, they must have done something. And see, well, then if they do this and do that, then, they can have what we have, and within democracy. And all you're saying is you're promoting the oppression to continue around the world because they gave you a crumb. People need to wake up, and people need to resist. I know it's hard because you're addicted to this corruption. I've said it before. You may not have analyzed it and or looked at it from that standpoint, but you're addicted to the corruption. And you need to wean yourself off of it. One day at a time, one step at a time. But let's acknowledge and let's be truthful. They got you. They got the hook in you. They spoiled you. They spoiled you with their giving. And you've allowed yourself to become just a little bit relaxed. This is not the time to be relaxed. So, if you're not standing with us in the point of eliminating the oppression and you're trying to have one foot on that side and one foot on this side, this expressed a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. You can't be trusted. If we don't stand up against the oppression around the world, you can't be trusted. These people need aid in Gaza. These people need food. They need the basic necessities in Gaza. I'm sure there are other people that are out here that are talking and that are doing things, to diminish the effects of what's transpiring. But it needs to be more. So much to where they would be ashamed to get up in mainstream media and say anything other than what we're saying right now. The voice of the people need to be heard, but a number of you're afraid to speak because it may interfere with your level of comfort. Then you sold out. You're no good. You're on their side. Let your voice be heard. Whatever resources you have, use them. This is a real fight. They have entitled us, or they have labeled us the enemy. The people are the enemy. And for that reason, we have to treat them as the threat. They're our enemy. There's no way to sugarcoat it. There's no way to sugarcoat it. That's what it is. They consider us to be the enemy, then they have to be the enemy in return. You say, what are you talking about? Here in America, they say, my people are the enemy, a threat to their national security. It's not as extreme at this point in time as far as like what they're doing in Gaza, but we've experienced that too. It's not as extreme at this point in time. But they're moving back into some of those same measures. So people around the world, as I say, not only locally, regionally, nationally, but also internationally, we need to hold hands and point out the oppression, point out the criminals, and then we have to move to enforce the measure because they're not going to enforce it. We can't rely on the UN to enforce it. So we're sitting up here now wondering if we actually have the power. But we do. And it's all centered around how we organize internationally, nationally, and we create and or we speak to the oppression in solidarity. In solidarity. Thank you all for coming into the live. Share the live, repost the live. Share it in your stories. So here, you got somebody in the room, Krishma. Krishma say, I don't know what I'm talking about. Krishma, you can get the hell out the room. You can get the hell out the room, Krishma. Nobody cares about you. You can get the hell out the room. I don't even know why you're here. You can be doing something else with your time. Okay? All right, so people like Krishma, these are the problem. These people will sell their mother out. Krishma, I tell you what. Only thing I can do, for you is just put you on mute. You don't deserve to be here. You don't deserve my air. You don't deserve the air of the people in this room. Too many people are being afflicted by the corruption. This is too serious of a matter for a distraction to come in on some nonsense. There's so much more that a people can be doing, but you come in here to disrupt a group of people that are looking to resolve an atrocity within oppression. But because you benefit from it, you want to come in and think you can ridicule us, but you can't. That day is over. That day is over. So every time I come on, I'm speaking to the point of networking internationally. That we can speak with one voice and point out where the oppression is, where the criminal activity is. And if no one else is going to enforce it, we have to understand as people, we do have the measure to enforce it. But because they don't teach and or speak into the measure and or way for it to be done, they've made us think and or feel it's somebody else's duty to do it, such as the UN. Or some other institution that they've created. Nothing that they've created is going to provide a remedy for us. Nothing. But that doesn't mean we're powerless. Our power stands within what we write. Our power stands within what we say. If we discharge a declaration, then we stand on that declaration before the world. And then we use our resources to enforce our declaration. And the declaration would be to resolve the oppression and those responsible for the oppression. See, they can't fight everybody. But one by one, and one over here and one over there, they win. They win at that game. But let us have a summit to end oppression. And let us pool our resources. That we can stand against the corruption. They don't want that. This is why they fear the black folks, air quote, black folks, air quote, the NEGROs in the United States. Because when we stand up, then we unite the entire world. Because we've dealt with this oppression for ages and generations. We're sick of it. So again, when I see it moving abroad, creeping abroad, I have to arrest it. I can't turn my back on it or a blind eye to it. I have to go to the aid of that people. Oppression is a disease and it's spreading. Who's the cause? Who's the criminal? Thank you all for coming into the live. But it's up to us, the genuine people, to stand on truth beyond their pragmatic measures, to denounce their systems, to denounce their democracies, to point out their corruptions, and to hold them accountable to the crimes that they've committed against humanity. See, the people can do that, and only the people can do that. That's what they fear. So they continue to try and promote the fact that, oh, leave it to your heads of state, leave it to the EU, leave it to the United Nations. Them people ain't gonna do nothing. It's up to the people. Within solidarity, understanding the need for action against corruption. There's no criminality in that. There's no criminality in wanting to end corruption. That's justice. But what they do, if you stand for justice, then they want to make it criminal, but that's just who they are. We can't live in fear, and we can't allow a life of convenience that they've given a number of us to stop us from moving with respect to accountability and or justice. Standing on truth. Thank you all for coming into the live. Share the live, repost the live. Tap the screen. That part don't cost anything. That's how you show your support, for the live. You can share it on your stories, as well. But it's up to us to continue using our platforms and continue using our voice, but more specifically, understanding the measure or the mode that we use to stand in solidarity. The idea, not saying to use this, but an idea of that thing like a petition that shows we have 1 million people in support for ending oppression. And then looking at the measure and or the means to how we want to do it. and let the people within different regions sign on to the measure to show that we have that support. And then we start using our resources to aid one another. No, they don't want that, because that takes the power out of their hand. They can't fight everybody, you all. If we turn our back on them and their business, they fail. But because we continue to give them our time and our attention, then they thrive. But consider what it means to ignore them, not to participate. That would bring them to an instant ruin. But we haven't understood what it means to ignore, to not participate. We hadn't really come to understand the gravity of that one right there. But they're in business because people keep them in business, even out of convenience. But curtail it, right? Curtail it. Start to, cut it down and cut into it, and start turning at degrees until eventually you're all the way turned and you don't see them no more. Because I know for a number of you, it's hard to just stop and drop everything, but start making your way to turn away from them. Figure out your exit strategy out of the corrupt system. Stop making excuses for the corruption. It's not going to get better. Because some of you think, oh, just give it a little more time, it's going to get better. It's not going to get better. If they could do any good, they would have done it by now. The world is in a decline because of these people's leadership. It's not going to get better. And the more we feed into it, the more you consider to uphold it and interact with it, then you're keeping them alive. Okay? So who's the criminal? Right? When you look at what's happening globally, you know who the criminal is. And they've made it to where the construct of law applies to everybody else but them. How dare you stand to say that they created some crime against humanity? How dare you? They created those laws for the other nations and, the darker races and everyone else that they consider to be inferior to them. That's their plan. That's their intent, to subdue the entire world through their criminality. Make everyone pay tribute to them. And some of you, because they make life somewhat easy for you, You think what they're doing is okay. It's not that bad. You need to wake up out of that. They're using you. They're using you against yourself, your family, and your own people. That's considered a call where you're just looking out for your own selfish desire. To hell with everybody else and anybody else. And I know there are those of you that you can't come out of that mind state. So you stay with them, you live with them. And when they receive their reward, their just due, we'll make sure you get it too. Thank you all for coming into the live. Tap the screen. You all, that part don't cost nothing. Show your support for the live. Tap the screen. That part don't cost anything. You repost the live. You share the live. You put it in your stories. Right? But this is a time for us to consider next steps. Because we can't depend on any of the heads of state to come to our aid. If we don't strategically communicate and use these platforms to understand how we can reach each other, we can't depend on them. Establish the network. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm looking and or talking about. But too many people are too preoccupied. They don't have time to establish a network and or to commit. That's the part, commit. The commitment. You don't have time to commit. But you're committed to the bullshit. You're committed to the corruption. You're committed to the distraction. But being committed to liberation, that doesn't make sense to you. You don't have time to, there's so much other stuff that's going on. So you need to get your priorities right. For some folks, you just haven't thought about it. But you have to make a decision. Who do you serve? What do you serve? Are you going to continue siding with them? Or are you going to take steps and measures to whereby you stand for what's right and for what's just, and you fight to end oppression for all people? Because right now, these people are responsible for global oppression. They fund it. They come into your region and they find the weakest individuals in that region and they offer them money and they give them arms. And then they send them off. And you don't see the hand that asserted the effort or the action. You just see the activity. But best believe, they funded it all, both sides. That's the game they've been playing for ages and generations. They use that tactic to come in and plunder, pilfer. So we have to identify. No different than for where I am in the U.S. I have to identify those that can't help but hold on to the lies and those that want to continue supporting the corruption. Leave them alone. And when you start talking about disassociating yourself with the corruption, that's when they say you're a threat. You become a threat to the security of corruption, to their web of lies, to their institution of oppression. And they say you need to be stopped. And this is the plight. They've labeled us the enemy because we want justice, or because we want to stop the oppression, or because we don't want to live within the corruption, because we want to stop the stealing and or the abuse to the resource, because we want clean air. We want clean water. We want pure food. Because we want basic necessities to life. We're a threat. Right? Antiquity T is asking oppression of who? If you have to ask that question, get your ass out the room. You can leave the room. This is the wrong place for you. Don't have time to play these games. You may have just landed here, but you don't seem like you belong here. If you don't understand who's being oppressed, then you're part of the problem. It's just that simple. You got eyes to see, and this is what we're talking about, you all. There are people that side with the oppression and they act like they're blind to it. And they want to come on and act like they're so innocent. Who is being oppressed? Where? I don't see it. I mean, what are you talking about? I just want to go outside and I'm just going to stand in the sunshine, and I don't have time for this negativity. Then leave. I can't tolerate the ignorance no more. Thank you all for coming into the live. So, I think, oh, and by the way, there's a link on my TikTok page right now. You need to go to that link. It's right where it says Saturday at 11. You click that link, it takes you to a YouTube channel where I post these videos, and you can see the other videos that we most recently posted, where we were exposing the state of Israel and the Jewish community for years of, the propaganda about 6 million 6 million Jews from 1915 to 1938. And this was, before World War II, how they were always suffering, and they got $1 billion to rebuild Jewry. And this was in, the early 1900s or mid 1900s, you all. They got $1 billion. Do you know what the value of $1 billion was then? And then they got another $100,000 and then another $50,000. I mean, they've been playing this game for too long. And I was talking about how when we get on this conversation about oppression, you have those that come in and say, you're playing the victim. Stop playing the victim. Why are your people always playing the victim? And I tell you, it's the state of Israel who has played the victim. And they've played it very well, and they've gotten paid. And they continue to get paid. No one tells them to stop playing the victim when they tell you, remember October the 7th, remember the Holocaust, never forget, never forget, remember, 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 and now give us some money. They've played the victim the entire way, and they've been compensated and continue to be compensated, although they're liars. They're not the people. The people in that region were dark-skinned in the 20s. And this is what the president of Egypt was saying. He says, well, damn, they left a very dark-complected people. Who are these pale people coming back saying they belong in this region? It's a setup. It's a MI6, a CIA setup. They're only in that region to destabilize the region and, again, to conquer Islam. That's their main goal for being in that region. Because if they can conquer Islam, then they stand a greater chance to conquer the rest of the entire world. They want everybody to be under their rule. In other words, they want to oppress all the nations and all the people. They want to be the one world government. Let me tell you something. Although I know they're not going to achieve it, okay? I understand they're not going to achieve it, but if they were to achieve being a one world government, you all, it would be oppression on steroids from that standpoint. Everybody would be working to appease the Europeans. And if you think it's corrupt now, see, because all they know is corruption. There's nothing that says if they were to achieve being the one world government that they're going to convert to righteousness. It's not in them. It's not in them to do that which is right. If it was, they would perform it. But all they perform and all they do is unjustly, it's unrighteous, it's corruption. They lie, they cheat, they steal. And they do this in the name of democracy, in the name of politics, in the name of government. He says, man, this guy is something else. What are you proposing, or are you just running your mouth? Well, you tell us what you're proposing. How about that? Because you don't seem to understand who's being oppressed. So what do you propose? And again, you can just leave. It may be just easier, for you to just leave because there's no real interaction for you in this room. Just leave. I gave you some attention. I acknowledged you. Now, just leave. That would be the nice thing to do. I'm asking you to leave. That's all. Now, I'm asking you to exit. Just do me a favor and just leave. See, that's the polite thing for me to do. And now I want to see if you honor my request. Just leave. Please leave. Just leave. Don't want to talk to you. All right. So thank you all for coming, into the live. And this, again, would go to show just how disrespectful you are because you won't leave. You're that guy that if you were here, it was like I would have to forcibly put my hands on you to put you out of my house or out of my space. I asked you kindly, nicely, just leave. This is not the place for you. Go, please. So as we were communicating and as we're talking about the atrocities that are happening around the world, real lives, real people, families are being affected in the name of politics, policies and procedures, in the name of government. And these governments, these heads of state, they're corrupt. And we know they're corrupt. Lord. Many they're corrupt. I hate to do this to you, man. But I'm just gonna put you on mute. I asked you to leave, and you just still hang around and doing white people stuff. So I just had to put you on mute. Okay. All right. So again, we're talking about real people and their lives that are being impacted right now. Just trying to get the basic necessities for life, and you have evil in the name of government and politics that's preventing aid from reaching people. Not only in Gaza, but also right here in the good old US of A. But when I start talking about it, they say stop playing the victim. When Netanyahu and them start talking about it, they say, oh, give them $1 billion. Nevertheless, I appreciate you all. See you. Yep. I appreciate you all anyway. I think that's all, I have to say. Oh, I think I was telling you all about the YouTube channel. You click the link on my page Right under where it says Saturday at 11, you click that link and subscribe to that YouTube channel. You all, it's a fairly new channel. I'm building it up. You all can help me build up the channel. Check out the last two, the most recent two, videos that are up there. But all of the other panel discussions that I've had, here on TikTok, those discussions are also there as we've been talking, about, this conflict, since it started from the standpoint of like really escalating. So we've been pretty consistent with having these conversations, and on that page is where you can find those conversations, right? I do change the link out from time, to time. So while it's up there, while it's available, click that link, go to, the site, because tomorrow I'll change that link out to another site, based on another conversation, that I have. All right. So I appreciate you all. Thank you for coming, into the live, for honoring my guest, Abu Siraj, and, for taking time to hear as we look to design a methodology to effectively combat oppression, not just locally, regionally, and nationally, but internationally, for all oppressed people around the globe. Who is the criminal? Who's the cause of all this corruption? Where they take their money and they take their funds and they use their money and they use their resources to pit people against each other. And then they try to come in and act like they have a solution. You all, that's a deceiver. That's a real evil person with a smile on their face. But all they hold are lies in their mind. They come talking peace, and then you might lose your life, you might lose your land, you may lose your resource. But their peace is not peace. Their peace is demise. Human demise. Somebody says people are not all bad. Don't we know it? Don't we know it? We know people are not all bad. Don't we know it? But you're not going to ignore the ones that are bad. We're talking about the ones that are bad. Yep. I see you all bringing, you're still running your comments and everything. So I'm really done. I'm closing out. I appreciate you all for coming, into the live. We'll be back. We'll continue to have these discussions centered around breaking, the chains of dishonesty and, the degrees of oppression. Yep. It's up to us. If we don't do it, you all, it's not going to get done. We cannot expect for them to come in and rescue us. It's not going to happen. The only thing they're going to do is oppress us even more. And I need you to understand that. And for those of you that feel like who's being oppressed and there is no oppression, you are part of the problem. All right, so I'm out of here. You all be safe out there. Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are. Thank you for tuning into the live. Don't forget to go to the YouTube channel and subscribe to the channel. The link is right here on my page under where it says Saturday at 11 a. Click that link. This video will be up. If you missed anything, you can recap, catch it. You can share these lives, with your family and or your friend from the family or your friends from the YouTube channel. Thank you all. Good morning, good night, good evening, wherever you are.